Morning. It's Monday, November 20th, and today I'm going to talk about several different subjects, which I found while I was looking for an article to speak about. So I found a couple of items that won't take long to speak to, but they're interesting. There's the things that are going on around the world that are worth us understanding about how people think beyond how Americans think, and beyond what's happening in the United States. There are situations that are happening around the world that are exactly like the situations that are happening in the United States. But the actions that certain countries take are different than what we might. So let me tell you about the first article. Australia has imposed new sanctions on Hamas supporters, and they're taking this action in response to the terror attacks. So apparently, Hamas has had supporters in Australia for a while. So because of Hamas's actions in this latest terror attack, 8 individuals and 1 entity who have been associated with Hamas in the past have been targeted and sanctioned by Australia. And these sanctions build upon the Australian history of action against Hamas. Australia has taken actions against Hamas since 2001, and they have been sanctioning different groups within the country because of their association. So this is a nation that recognized the evil of Hamas before we woke up to it. Now, I'm sure the Israelis knew about Hamas, but has the United States ever taken action against people who support some organization outside the actual country of the United States? I don't think we've ever done anything like that. And it demonstrates that they are actively engaged in the support against the facilitation of terrorism. The Australia, Israel, and Jewish Affairs Council welcomed this decision, with its executive director stating, "We welcome this action and see it as a first step." So have we done anything in the United States that remotely resembles something like this? We let people march, raise their banners and everything, but we don't take action against some of these people who are over the edge. The executive director of the Jewish Council is praising this action and is looking forward to more actions in this vein. Jewish Council, in addition to these sanctions, has pressed for action to be taken against Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard, because both of these organizations, Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, are financed, armed, and controlled by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard. So Australia is looking at how to take action at the controlling forces beyond Hamas. And maybe the rest of the world should take a good hard look at that and recognize the fact that certain countries need to follow Australia's example. Now let me tell you something very important that happened in the United States. A company had to pay over $50 million in the largest environmental lawsuit set in the history of Washington, D.C. So whatever they were doing, it was a major health risk to the general public. The company was the Potomac Electric Power Company, commonly called Pepco, and they're going to pay out more than $57 million. $47 million to clean up the river it polluted, and another $10 million in fines. So the D.C. Attorney General recently announced that the settlement would pay for persistent toxic pollution of the Anacostia River, which runs right through Maryland and D.C. So Pepco had two plants along this river, one at Budget Point and one at Benning Road. And they had equipment leaks and intentional releases of petroleum and hazardous substances into the river. So they were doing this consciously. This was not an accident on their part. I can't even pronounce the name of these hazardous materials. But they were banned in 1979. And the Environmental Protection Agency has said they are considerably dangerous to humans. So the $47 million plus the $10 million is just being used to take care and clean up the river. But none of that money is going to the victims, to the human victims who were affected by these crimes. In 2012, a study that was partially funded by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration found that nearly half the people living near the Anacostia were unaware of the dangers of eating fish from the river, and about 17,000 people could be eating contaminated fish. But there's no money in this settlement to take care of those people. And the report also discovered that many local fishermen who were disproportionately African American, Latino, or Asian are catching, eating, and sharing potentially contaminated fish with family, friends, and others. This greatly expands possible long-term health risks to the public around the Anacostia River. So this is yet another example of environmental racism. That's a term that I've never heard used before. But you can understand it. You have poor people who don't necessarily make the greatest salaries in the world, but take advantage of the natural resources that are available to them, like the river, so they can catch food for their family, which I'm sure tasted perfectly good, but it's contaminated. And this is unfortunate that these people in the area, in an area that's primarily populated by African American, Latinos, indigenous people, Asian American, and Pacific Islanders. These are migrant farm workers and low-income workers that were getting screwed by the dumping of these two facilities. So what's going to happen to the poor people? So when we look at the situation, Pepco is definitely practicing environmental racism. Because when they dump this stuff in a natural resource that is used by a poor population, a mixed poor population that included African Americans, Latinos, indigenous people, Asian Americans, it's environmental racism. And they're not even considered in the results of this lawsuit. That's a shame. 17,000 people could be affected by this at the minimum. So when this settlement goes forward, right? In every case that comes along that looks like this, they have to consider the environmental racism of the future. And they already have been screwed. The bodily harm's already been done. Simply put, the settlement needs to be larger to include the local population. So that'll be it for today. Bye.